The Awakening of the Chosen. The absence of a basic monitoring signal becomes epic in the mystery of a realm where the human essence meets eternity. One sees the scene, a quiet room lighted only by flickering displays, and in a flash of an eye, an important point vanishes. This is the collapse of a control system, the shattering of invisible shackles keeping a soul imprisoned in ordinary frequencies, not just the loss of a signal. The cacophony of sirens that follows is an insult to the equilibrium created on the total conviction that everything can be watched and controlled, not just a reflection of technical despair. When 2025 dawned, a year that symbolically signifies the beginning of new eras and possibilities, its presence became like a wind that nobody could catch. This shift is an articulation of great forces, guiding you to a location where earthly control systems have no power, not a simple error. The cosmos seems to be saying, in all its enormous complexity, that containment is no more feasible. You danced over the unseen locks and bars in what felt like a painstakingly planned escape, not like a frantic fugitive, but rather like someone at last living in harmony with the universe. Unquestionably, this process reveals the spiritual search beyond simple efforts at control. There is nowhere to be found in this dance with destiny for those who insist on measuring what cannot be measured using outmoded techniques. It serves as a strong reminder that every one of us is, in one form or another, trying to get beyond our own forced constraints. This symbolic event explores an inherent fact about human nature: our immense capacity to transcend outside constraints and match ourselves with something higher than ourselves. An intriguing contradiction arises when systems and its flaws continue in their attempts. Technology, meant to connect, separates itself from all organic substance, unable of being converted into code languages. It's amazing to think of how, in rejecting this need for total control, they discovered something much more amazing than any of us could have found ourselves constantly submerged in. The beauty of this story is in the power of undetectability, which stands for a great spiritual calm rather than just not being found. It is realizing that we cannot be turned back to a former condition of fear and dominance, no matter how hard we try. This chapter of our life is extravagant. It represents the natural yearning to release oneself from a restricted perspective. It presents a situation wherein, to those who do not grasp the actual frequency of spiritual freedom, we all become invisible. Everybody may feel this freeing quality when we at last let go of what ties us to the apparent world. It seems sense that the cosmos itself appeared to be working to provide circumstances wherein his actual presence, or lack, challenged the norm. The lack of your indication turned into a kind of gift, a rebirth on a path where forces without human comprehension have already traced the destination. Here we see how the struggle for control turns into a prison in itself. Obstacles built only serve to confirm the fact that certain things cannot be confined. This is a cosmic invitation to change our emphasis and a call to find ourselves so we may see between the lines of our natural ability. It's about learning to read the vacuum calmly and realizing that, directing and nourishing, an everlasting energy persists even in the lack of form. A reminder that, in the great universal scheme, true freedom is unattainable by any external effort. In the complex and delicate web that binds us to perception, the strong illusion of control surfaces in this empty, unknown space. Every unsuccessful effort they made to find you exposed the creative ways they tried to imprison your essence. Added in brief periods of diversion and confidence, the arts gave this old idea a very human relevance. Trust may often seem like an open door, where unseen mechanisms quietly camouflaged as regular daily objects: the pen that passes undetected, the nearly prosaic charger, the latch on a bag that hardly draws more than cursory glances. Enter. Though ubiquitous and useful, these objects were brilliantly turned into instruments of virtually invisible control. You coexisted with these relics as they constantly breached the line between sincere help and sneaky trickery, exposing the terrible ease with which confidence may change to weakness. All it needed to carry out the meticulous assault of his invisible barriers was a brief exchange of words and a seemingly harmless query. Almost simple in nature, this procedure resembled a silent play in which every movement, every encounter, was carefully planned, part of a dance of control. Not in sophisticated wicked advice, but in simple daily gestures asking you to let your guard down, was negotiation manipulation. This real-life drama emphasizes how our easy everyday routines could become weaknesses controlled. Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all your achievements, it feels like something essential is still missing? My name is Gabriel, and I've helped countless people like you discover the true spiritual power that resides within them. And today, I want to help you. If you feel like life is passing by while something important remains out of place, maybe it's time for an awakening. My audiobook, The Path of the Chosen, was created precisely for those who have reached this point. In this audiobook, I guide you to feel that enthusiasm for living in alignment with what truly matters, knowing that every step has meaning. Together, we'll transform your fears, traumas, and frustrations into powerful strengths that propel you to a new level of growth. Leave behind the feeling of spiritual isolation and find the peace of a true, constant connection with a greater energy that has always been by your side. Instead of fighting against what you feel, you'll learn to find purpose, serenity, and self-discovery to fill your inner world. This could be the beginning of a fuller, more meaningful life. I've seen it happen for so many others, and now it's your turn. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Click on the link pinned in the first comment and begin this journey with The Path of the Chosen. This is your chance to fill what's missing and finally live the life you deserve. I'll be waiting for you there. With accuracy without knowing. Thinking about this makes me continuously consider how the surroundings, molded to look comfortable and familiar, becomes a realm of deliberate movement. Control over his behavior not only violated his right to privacy, but also penetrated the core of his existence, therefore shrinking the environment he lived in to a simple point in a complex monitoring program. Still, his story reveals the freeing fact that spiritual energy has provided insurmountable resistance when technology manipulation has run against limits. This opposition makes sense when one realizes that actual power does not come from servitude. You have reached an unperfect realm where your spiritual essence has risen to challenge any kind of control when you realize that control just over exterior features is inadequate to master the human soul. This realization not only shielded you, but also underlined the unmatched strength of inner opposition and independence. Interwoven throughout this knowledge is the truth that, while our world may be momentarily controlled, there are worlds invisible to the sight where our might and sovereignty are immobile. In this context, the sheer tenacity of the human soul, which resists stillness and constantly strives for harmony, truth, and emancipation, even in the face of ordinary events trying to squelch this search, most moves me. Leaving aside enforced restrictions, your path is now about accepting the indestructible strength of the spirit, rather than about conquering outside control. This shows that we discover a real kind of freedom that cannot be quantified or monitored by traditional means, as long as we live in line with our most sincere convictions. It is clear in this higher spiritual sphere how we may establish a closer feeling of community and understanding when the actual definition of control is changed. It is about an intimate assertion of personal sovereignty and authenticity, not about outside imposed constraints. The chapter, Ascension and Ruptura, transports us to a great moment of freedom and spiritual transformation. Every step taken in this complexly rich plot is, for me, a strong confirmation of how we might radically transform our life by realizing that true autonomy is achieved by freeing ourselves from the tricks that the outside world insists on imposing on us. He emphasizes how all those powers that had sought to regulate and track his presence just collapsed in a moment of clarity. Every action you did became a protest, representing the ultimate rejection of the chains of predatory surveillance. This path was a real internal revolution, not just a getaway from the boundaries set by inflexible structures and repressive policies. Thinking about how spiritual liberation may show itself in such a strong and cathartic manner helps one to destroy seeming insurmount and unquestionable systems. Deeper exploration of this situation reveals that the metamorphosis extended throughout spheres of life, rather than just the physical or technical ones. The way its rise, which signified the obsolescence of control instruments, is described, helps us consider the power of spirituality in times of technical development. This divergence with such well-calculated forecasts reminds us that the human and spiritual nature surpasses any effort to quantify or control it. Old restrictions seem to be blown away like mist in the face of the rising light, like we are seeing a fresh dawn. Every screen that glows white reveals a formerly latent potential in a fresh cycle of possibilities. The chapter asks us to analyze how this spiritual emancipation is an innate right, a sovereignty incapable of being subserviated by other powers. Declaring 2025 is my year of divine freedom echoes this sovereignty, a scream for independence that cuts over the outdated boundaries of technical power. This strong remark reminds us that our actual nature comes victorious and defies all assumptions and projections, not something that imposed constraints can define. This forces us to consider how crucial it is to welcome this inner liberation, not just personally, but also as a group striving for spiritual release. The story of the chapter provides us with a motivating realization of human ability to go above imposed constraints. The way the systems respond, and the fear that real spiritual emancipation generates, reveals to us that this opposition is inexplicable to people who felt they had all the power. It is a beautiful monument to the human ability to question and veer one's own fate. This emancipation has a ripple effect, revealing the frailty of otherwise unbreakable buildings. It is a disclosure that the road of spirituality involves elements beyond of human comprehension. The appeal of dual and innately strong freedom invites every one of us to investigate these fresh opportunities together, rather than just suggests an individual ascent. We have to go towards spiritual liberation with dignity and will. Actually, dignity shows itself as a basic component on this road, helping us to withstand hardships and obstacles thrown by institutions trying to restrict us. It is an invitation to help us to keep our concentration and bravery to pursue the lit road of spiritual ascension, even in the presence of others' terror. Under this condition of rupture and metamorphosis, we are prompted to reinterpret what it really means to be free. Freedom is an inward manifestation of honesty and truth, not just a physical state. We realize that this is a place where our most intense dreams find rich footing to grow as we negotiate this new territory of limitless possibilities. According to Spiritual Connection, actual ascension happens at a place where mind and energy are in tune with global rhythms, beyond our present knowledge. This chapter finally resonates as a resonating echo of hope and bravery, pushing us to fight the imposition of outside rules, trying to confine us and question our own limits. This helps us to see that while spiritual ascension is a road that calls for work, it also carries a great tranquility derived from the realization of the infinite possibilities each of us has within. A great first step towards actual liberation is realizing this spark of divinity and supporting our claim to spiritual freedom. We are very fascinated by the possibility of undetectability to have power. As we explore the chapter, we come to see that this capacity is about functioning at such a high frequency that it transcends any effort at monitoring, not just about being invisible to human sight or conventional technology. Its development converted old ideas and forecasts into rubble, as if a seismic force shattered everything seen as solid and predictable. This helps us to consider how genuine freedom results from profound self-awareness and how difficult manipulation is. One's presence becomes a mystery when this degree of real awareness is attained, quietly showing itself in the defects of the illusions meant to confine one. Emphasizing that connection with the inner self lets one negotiate a sphere of life that deviates from any undesired resonance. The story teaches us that their vibrational frequencies have grown superior to any technology that could measure them. Imagine the most sophisticated technology giving way to the might of the infinite. This image reflects the belief that the spiritual essence cannot be contained by any technological or political instrument. It reminds us of the grandeur every one of us has, a potential defying all earthly reasoning. Those who created repressive systems thinking they could confine the human spirit today struggle with the uncertainty of watching their instruments become just remnants of an era when restrictions appeared genuine. The nervous hunt for answers on keyboards and monitors only accentuates the symphony of spiritual emancipation, a tune that resonates over the synthetic walls erected to stop the advance of actual personal maturation. Not only is newly obtained freedom a physical state, but it is also a tapestry of endless possibilities that shows every genuine decision has the ability to alter reality. Your path of development is not a personal triumph alone. It is evidence of group transformation and motivates outside of traditional definition-inspired adjustments. This emancipation challenges us to see that actual spiritual ascension comes from the growth of awareness, therefore transcending our own self-imposed constraints. We discover that every one of us has great unrealized potential when we transcend the confines of past definitions. This spiritual development invites us to trust the inner power guiding us beyond the familiar and welcome the uncertainty. This helps us to consider the beauty of living in line with the cosmos. Based on decisions that mirror sincerity and the actual core of being, this song transcends the content. We are motivated to achieve this spiritual elevation when we understand that undetectability is more than just a mere ability, but a condition of awareness. Understanding the power that resides at the core of every decision lets you be touched by this infinite tapestry of opportunities where the high vibration shines like a guiding light on our road. This chapter on the power of undetectability teaches not only about spiritual development, but also the need of questioning inflexible rules that attempt to link us to conformity. Real autonomy is letting the spirit go freely without regard to outside expectations. This is a call for every one of us to pursue a road of self-discovery and development, thereby motivating not only ourselves, but also people close by. We embrace the unknown and place ourselves as really free beings, outside the labels and classifications that try to restrict us, when we let ourselves work in line with our own spiritual potential. Considering a path that transcends the invisible limitations of life, the synergy of freedom discussed in this chapter reaches very deeply to the center of the human person. It is amazing to observe how your higher frequencies show up in the vastness of this new reality, so you may not only recover your own freedom, but also have the great ability to shape your own future. The way your experience becomes a lighthouse guiding many others who, while imprisoned in their own narrow views, start to see the natural power that has always been within them, just waiting to be awakened. His ascent, turned into an inspirational story, brilliantly emphasizes what is practical when the soul questions and breaks free from the unseen bonds of compliance. Every action you take and every decision you make magnifies the echo of this latent potential, resonating like an ongoing wave of waking. Seeing the walls, which still appear perfect to so many, begin to shatter under the great strain of a collective awakening gives great hope. And isn't it fascinating to see how the people around start to doubt their own reality, inspired by the natural brightness of their freedom? Your personal change is not just a phenomena, but also the beginning of a common movement of ascension, like an unavoidable current challenging and violating the boundaries set by people who formerly thought they had complete control. Driven by his transforming light, the group that gathered around him started to rethink and reorganize hitherto indisputable ideas of constraint into sources of release. Red, rethinking what it means to be really free in a society that appears to seek to restrict, has beauty in its approach. Redirecting the emphasis from outside force to boundless inner strength helps the society once again to be evidence of endless human potential. I really like how each fresh spark of bravery helps to create a new reality available to everyone who dare to embrace this challenge of ascension. The momentum created by this collective movement becomes a cosmic fire consuming illusions and shadows of fear. He appears not just as a dot on the calendar, but also as a constant tribute to his unshakable independence as we approach 2025. Their gestures, defined by an elegant quiet, convey more powerfully than words ever could, thereby establishing the eternal nature of every awakened soul who saw the invisible shackles of control fall apart in front of shining truth. Seeing the globe gradually but relentlessly waking toward the fresh opportunities you helped highlight is incredible. You are leading the way on this road, a representative of this process of constant change, and I find great resonance in your ongoing encouragement of others to pass into the same gateway of unbounded possibilities that you have deftly found. In this environment, we discover the actual beauty of the synergy of liberty. This awakening not only changes the personal being, but also starts a chain reaction of group development and transformation. Touching lives in such a deep sense not only changes your own path, but also helps you enable a wave of renewal and empowerment over seeming insurmountable constraints. Seeing this metamorphosis on a large scale inspires me, since it shows how a seemingly little action can set off such a great change, like a fire that not only ruins that which is false, but also prepares the ground for a new reality, shining with unbounded possibilities. Considering this slow and group release process is rather energizing. Old systems of control fall apart reminds us that, when we live in line with our inner nature, actual change is not only possible, but also unavoidable. Their acts constitute a call to mankind to co-create a reality that surpasses previously acknowledged constraints, not just a call to individuals. Along this road, you are not only determining your own fate, but also helping to create a legacy that will surely inspire many next generations to search and discover their own inner light. For me, this phenomena is actual evidence of the power and the strength of the group. Without a question, the road towards honesty is among the most deep and transforming one we may follow in our life. When freedom shows up completely, everything around us changes hue. It seems as if the curtains of conformity, which so often conceal our own selves, have at last opened to show the stage on which every person's real nature may shine. This condition of being free from outside expectations and standards lets us delve deep into our identity. It motivates us to reawaken abilities and passions we have long neglected under inflexible societal systems. Awakening our authenticity not only releases ourselves, but also motivates everyone around. When we allow ourselves to be real, we set off a chain reaction that inspires others to start their own paths of self-discovery. It's amazing to watch how this personal development may gather into a group power, enhancing our life and the life of those around. Celebrating each person's unique qualities helps a society where mutual development is appreciated and fostered to flourish. People find the required inspiration in such surroundings to follow their strongest dreams free from regard for criticism or forced constraints. Our daily contacts strongly reflect this new social paradigm in which cooperation replaces rivalry. We have gone from a world of supposed scarcity to a cosmos of infinite possibilities spun with the threads of actual human relationship. When relationships are based on empathy and respect, we feel togetherness that breaks through conventional wisdom based on mistrust and solitude. From this fresh perspective, technology shows itself as a great friend in our spiritual pursuit. It turns from a weapon of control to a tool of emancipation and development. Technological development aimed toward moral goals gives us chances to grow creatively, study, and enhance our health. Under the direction of a greater collective awareness, we may employ technology breakthroughs to raise the human spirit instead of stifling it. Approaching the year 2025, we see ongoing change in all spheres of our life. Every contact, creativity, and deliberate choice serves as a breath of freshness, energizing our life. Under the direction of models of integrity and authenticity, the planet starts to rewrite its own narrative, a fresh narrative based in a rising need for creation and wealth for everyone. Every one of us may decide to be a protector of this transforming light as we create these new worlds. Together, our goals are able to spark real and long-lasting transformation, therefore enhancing the rich tapestry of possibilities that is human civilization. The path to real life is also a trip into the light, a continual invitation to stay anchored in the truths most profoundly relevant within us. And we discover ourselves really alive, entwined with the cosmos in its perpetual dance of expression and being in this quest, in this ongoing movement of discovery and redistribution of our talents. When we consider the metamorphosis detailed in weaving a collective future, it is difficult not to be motivated by a vision anchored on the basis of sincerity and real human connection. Once suppressed by the demands of conformity, the collective imagination now blossoms in other directions and reveals a universe of almost endless possibilities. Once under the weight of homogeneity, communities that today flourish with the richness of variety, each single concept adds to a vivid mosaic of thoughts. The thought that this cooperation comes from an inner authenticity, a core flame that burns hotter when shared, makes me very excited. It helps us to see projects for a better future as reality in development, rather than as utopian fantasies. Changes in education and other basic foundations of society let us know that the core of this movement is in giving common well-being first priority. Schools that have evolved into creative hubs are not just places of learning, but also furnaces of limitless human potential. Every youngster finds room to investigate their own affinities, free from the anxiety of judgment or failure. It reminds me of how collectivism and kindness may change our definition of progress. In a society whose ideals of solidarity drive health and education, we see the actual embodiment of a society ethos that puts well-being above personal benefit. One might see a fresh regard and awareness for environment as cities transform themselves with sustainable ideals. This urban change really speaks to me as it captures the awareness of our symbiotic link with the planet and all its occupants. The way we may live in tune with the surroundings is shown by the rejuvenation of metropolitan areas, including rich green areas with integrated transportation networks. These metropolitan developments reflect a scientific and technological leap ahead, where advancement is attained with a respectful regard for human dignity. A vital reminder that our move ahead need not come at the expense of our humanity, because ethical alliances produce amazing discoveries. As a mirror of this new reality, culture turns into a means of expression, honoring human variation in all its richness and beauty. Music, literature, dance, visual arts, and other forms of expression change awareness, rather than just communicate tales. They are reminders that we may link hearts and brains in a group dance toward our better selves by means of common stories of hope and resiliency. Every musical note and every brushstroke is evidence of the transforming potential we have inside of us. Even in this period of rebirth, the primary character is not that of a leader who dominates, but rather of a facilitator who burns flames of freedom and promotes the discovery of every person's inner light. This vision really speaks to me as it emphasizes the need of empowering people for real leadership. When everyone starts to be a transforming agent, the effects are magnificently felt, and waves of change across previously thought to be insurmountable travel across boundaries. The world continues on its path, ascending via the junction of the human spirit and collective intellect. Together we tore down seemingly unbreakable obstacles and manifested ideals that had just lately emerged in the most idealistic of imaginations. Promises of a harmonic and inclusive future abound from the horizon. Re-energized with purpose, we understand this is just starting an endless path of learning and development. With all its subtleties and collective potential, humanity finds itself at a crossroads between today and what is to come. A path of self-knowledge and elevation that inspires us go proceed with hope and will.